As usual, I stopped by B for breakfast on the way home from my shift at the airport. It was a difficult night for me. I had to replace the brakes on a Boeing 727, and these things are heavy. We had to do it without the help of the cart we usually use because both were broken. Luckily, I was in good shape thanks to daily visits to the gym and running 3 to 5 miles every night, so I was able to install them without much stress. The wheels and tires weren't lightweight either. Usually they helped me, but one person was on vacation, 2 were sick, and no one on the shift agreed to overtime, so there were very few of us. I ended up having to work overtime in the morning to finish the night checks on time. I was a little exhausted when I sat down at my favorite table in the B&B cafe. Mary brought me coffee, and I started flirting with her while she took my order. I ordered the daily special 2 eggs, corned beef and potatoes, fried potatoes and toast. While I was eating, I noticed a couple with 2 children at a table near the entrance. I noticed them because the man was quite loud and was waving his arms as if he was trying to prove something. Then he got up from the table and flew out of the cafe. Gwen, who was the hostess that day, came over twice and refilled my coffee cup, and I flirted with her even though she was 5 months pregnant. I told her that she needed to run with me and that she looked sexier than many women I knew, and that made her smile. Poor girl needed support. The bastard who made her baby disappeared as soon as she told him he was going to be a daddy. I didn't lie. She was sexy, and there was no doubt that I wouldn't mind if she said, "Do you think I'm sexy? Prove it. I finish at 3. In fact, there were 7 girls working different shifts at B, and I flirted with every one of them and wouldn't say no to any of them. I was at the register paying the bill when Mary walked up to Shirley, the manager who was taking my money, and said, "We have a problem. The party at table 7 can't pay the bill. The woman says her boyfriend got up and left, and she doesn't have the money. She can go to the corner bank and use their ATM. I told her that, and she said she didn't have a card. We can accept her check. She doesn't have it. It's all in her bag, which is in the car the guy drove away in. Then I guess we'll have to call the police." When Shirley gave me the change, I asked if it was the same woman with 2 children who were sitting at the entrance, and Mary confirmed. I told Shirley that I would take care of the payment and handed her the money. I was on the sidewalk, heading to my truck, when the woman from table 7 ran up to me. "Thank you very much. I don't know what I would do without your help. Please, can I ask why you did this? I've been in trouble a couple of times too, and someone came to my rescue. Call it karma. I'm returning the favor. You've been so kind that I hate to even ask, but could you give me $1 to use a pay phone? I need to call my dad." I took my cell phone out of its case and handed it to her, and she called. "Hi, Daddy." "Not very good. I should have listened to you. You were right." He left, leaving me with the children. She explained what happened and then said, "Small town in Colorado." "No, all our things were in the car, and I have no idea where he went." "No, my bag was in the car. I don't know what to do, Daddy." "I don't know. I'll ask." She looked at me and asked, "Where is the nearest bank?" I pointed and said, "On the next corner, Castle Rock Bank." She relayed the information and then said, "But how will I get the money? I don't have any ID. It's all in my bag." I was lucky. A kind person helped me. "Yes, I use his cell phone to call." She handed me the phone and said, "He wants to talk to you." "Hello. Who am I talking to?" "Rob Dalton." "Thank you for helping my daughter, Mr. Dalton. May I ask you for a little more time?" "I think yes. I'm going to wire Melissa some money until I can come and pick her up. She doesn't have an ID, so she might have trouble getting the money from the bank. Can I wire it to you and you can give it to her?" "I think it's okay. I'll take her to the bank and she'll call you from there so you can work things out with the bank." "This should work. Is there a motel nearby? She'll need somewhere to stay until I get there. I'm driving from Liberal, Kansas, so it'll take a while. I can't leave right away, so it might be tomorrow. No problem. She can stay with me. I live alone in a 4-bedroom home, so there's plenty of space. Tell her there is no need to transfer money. She will not need it until you arrive. It's a shame Melissa didn't meet you before she got involved with that creep Ben. She could use a good man in her life. I gave him directions to my house for my 70 and told him we would see him tomorrow. I zoned out and then thought, is all your stuff in your boyfriend's car? It's not his car, it's my car. Do you have any idea where he might be? No. We were heading to Santa Fe. He works there. Then we need to report the car stolen. Take your kids. The police station is 3 blocks from here. I don't think he stole it. Of course he stole. He drove off, leaving you here. He took your bag, your car, and all your things. If he's still in town and just chilled out after the argument in the restaurant, maybe you can say he didn't steal, but if he's out of town when they find him, he stole your car. She returned to the restaurant and took the children. She introduced them to me as she loaded them into my extended cab truck. Billy was 10 and Mary Lou was 8, and other than their greetings when they met, they were quiet children. I took them to the police station on 2nd and Perry, and we went inside. Jack Mansell was behind the counter, and I introduced Melissa to him and explained her problem. Melissa gave him information about the car and the trailer it was towing, and Jack called, and within a minute or so John Coleman, the detective, came out, greeted me, and took Melissa into his office to fill out a report. While this was happening, Jack called dispatch and relayed information about the car and the suspect likely heading down I-25 toward New Mexico. When Melissa returned from John's office, she told me that she had given them my phone number as a contact and asked if I minded. I assured her that everything was fine. I took Melissa and her children to my home, and on the way she asked me what my wife would say when I showed up with a strange woman and 2 children. I do not have a wife. Not married, and you live in a 4-bedroom home. I used to be married, but I got the house from my parents before we got married, so she couldn't claim it in the divorce. Sorry, didn't mean to bring back bad memories. It's okay, I'm over it. It's been almost 6 months. It was true, I really got over it, but sometimes I wish I had been less civilized when I caught Amy with someone else. I just took a few photos on my phone and left. I always regretted that I didn't beat the bastard and throw Amy naked into the street. But I didn't do it, so it's a thing of the past. When we got home, I showed Melissa where everything was and told her to make herself at home. I told her I work at night and sleep during the day, so she would have to manage on her own. I told her to wake me up if anything about the car came up, and I went into my bedroom, set the alarm for 4, and went to bed. I woke up from what I thought was a dream. When she saw that I woke up, she said, "This is the only way I can thank you for what you have done for me and the children." The night before, I spent 2 hours with Dawn Maria, a girl I went to school with. Dawn had lost her husband in Iraq and, with 3 children, was taking up an ancient profession, and I had a weekly date with her. Melissa was damn good at what she did, and I thought about asking her to stay for a while. I'm not a woman of easy virtue, Mr. Dalton, but I needed to thank you somehow for what you did, and I suspect that offering money would be an insult to you. You said that I would wake you if the police called. They stopped Mark on the highway north of Colorado Springs. They said I could pick up the car at the gas station at I-25 and Woodman Road. I decided I wouldn't make things worse by telling her. She didn't need to thank me like that, and got up to shower and get dressed. Give me a couple minutes to shower and get dressed, and we'll go get your car. Maybe you should call your dad and let him know he doesn't need to come pick you up. When I got dressed and went downstairs, Melissa said that she had contacted my father on his cell phone, and he had already been on the road for 2 hours, so he would turn around and go back. I called the station and learned that Melissa's bag was there, and also learned that her boyfriend was in the custody of the El Paso County Sheriff's Department and would be transported back to Castle Rock in the morning. He claims he didn't steal the car, he was just too angry to think straight, and that he would have been back in an hour or so. We drove to the station and picked up Melissa's bag, and then headed to Colorado Springs. On the way, she told me a little about herself. She was 29 and a widow. Her husband was called into the reserves and was killed by an explosive device in Iraq. She was a registered nurse and quit her job when her boyfriend took a job in Santa Fe. She didn't say what their argument was about, and I didn't ask. All she said about her boyfriend was that he could rot in jail for all she cared. Are you sure you want this? After he left me and the kids, I'm sure I will. It won't be that easy. If you want him to stay in prison, you'll have to apply and stay here until the trial, or at least go back to it. It might be better if you just leave. It'll save you a lot of nerves and time, and if you don't plan to get back to him, this will be the cleanest and easiest breakup you could get. Probably so. Where are you going now? Still in Santa Fe? No, there's nothing for me there. I think I'll go back home and try to get my old job back, although I don't really want to. Too many bad memories. Colorado is a nice place to live, and with the number of hospitals and medical centers that are being built here, you shouldn't have a problem finding a job as a nurse. We got to the gas station, and I waited until she went inside, showed her ID, and took the car keys. This was the last model year of the Tahoe, and it was attached to a medium cargo trailer. When she got out, we moved the kids to Tahoe. I made sure she knew the way back to my house and headed home. On the way, I thought about the events of the day and wondered whether I should invite Melissa to stay with me if she decided to stay in Colorado. Thinking about Amy made me feel again the bitterness of what she had done to me. Bitch. And then she had the nerve to tell me that she loved me and that Chad was a mistake that she would never make again if I gave her another chance. I laughed in her face and told her to rot in hell. She told all her friends and family that she had done nothing wrong and that I was being unreasonable. After the 10th person told me I was overestimating and that I should give the poor girl another chance, I downloaded the photos from my phone to my computer and printed out 24 sets. After I gave these kits to everyone who told me I should bring Amy back, I stopped hearing from people and Amy suddenly left town. A month later, I heard that she had been killed when the guy she was living with ran a red light and his car collided with a truck. I had my last laugh. I hadn't started divorce proceedings yet, so I saved money on that, and I had 2 insurance policies on her. One through my job, and the other I took out a year after we got married. When I got home, I decided to make dinner for us and took a chance that Melissa and her kids wouldn't mind spaghetti with meat sauce, so I started cooking. When Melissa didn't show up by 8, I accepted that she wasn't coming and that I will remain lots of leftovers for several days. It was a pretty easy night on the job with just a couple of checks and a few components that needed to be replaced in time. When I made my usual stop at B for breakfast in the morning, Gwen, who was working as a waitress that day, asked what had happened the day before. You paid this woman's bill, she ran out after you and got into your car, and you drove away. I told her the story, and she asked, why did you do that? I don't know. It was probably Kisa syndrome. Kisa syndrome. Yes, knight in shining armor syndrome. You know, you see a lady in distress, and you rush to help. I wish I could find one of these. Find one of these? Yes, I really need a knight in shining armor. Are things bad? It's even worse. I barely make enough to pay rent and put gas in my car. Good thing one of my benefits is here are free lunches, otherwise I would probably die of hunger. Is it that bad? When Rory and I were sharing the rent on the apartment, things weren't so bad, but when he ran away, things went downhill. My parents moved to Florida 6 months ago, so they can't help. I applied everywhere. It's possible to find a normal job, but no one wants to hire a pregnant woman, knowing she'll be going on maternity leave in 4 months or so. I looked at her, and a thought occurred to me. If I can help someone I don't even know, then why not help someone I know and like? The problem was that I wasn't sure if I could stop myself from lusting after this sexy babe, but at least I could try. Do you have a rental agreement for the apartment? I asked. No, The rent is month to month. What? It will be easier if you don't have to break the contract. Which is easier? Moving. Moving? Am I missing something? You said you wanted a knight in shining armor, so here I am. I live in a 4-room house, so I have plenty of space for you. You won't have to pay rent, and you can start saving money. What's the catch? There's no catch. Like I said, I have a big house and I live alone. You'll have your own bedroom with a lock on the door, so I can't get to your sexy body. She laughed and said, "My sexy body, you need to get your eyes checked." No, you don't. I already told you that even though you're pregnant, you look sexier than most women I know, and I meant it. I took a napkin from the holder and wrote my address on it and handed it to her. Think about it. Come in when you're done and take a look at the place. It's a no-strings-attached offer, honey. Absolutely no strings attached. I finished breakfast and went home. I set the alarm for 3 o'clock and went to bed. The alarm woke me up and I made coffee and then started cleaning the house. There's not much dirt in a 4-room house when you live alone, but dust never takes a day off. I was vacuuming and dusting when the doorbell rang. I opened the door and saw Gwen. You told me to come by after work and check out the place, so I came. I stepped aside and she entered. I walked her around the house, and when we got to sleeping, I said the house had 4 rooms, but in fact there are only 3. I turned one into an office and a library, so you have a choice of 2. If you decide to move, choose the one you like, and we will turn the other into a nursery for your child. You said no conditions, right? He said, but there are several conditions. I saw her face darken as she thought. I knew it was too good to be true. This creep expects me to pay rent by sleeping with him. Before she could say a word, I said, I don't think there'll be too much of a burden. I'll buy the groceries, but I'll expect that you will take turns cooking with me. I will expect you to help me keep my house clean. You know, vacuuming, dusting, things like that. But the main condition is no guys in the house if I'm at home. I work the night shift and usually leave at 10:30 and come back at 9 in the morning. So if you can invite them, and they will leave before I get back, then please, but never when I'm home. Can you live with this? No problem, especially with the last one. I don't have a boyfriend, and I'm unlikely to find one in this position. Not true. I'm not the only guy in the world who thinks pregnant women are sexy. You're the only one I've met. Besides, any guy who comes to me in this state will only be looking for one thing. He definitely won't be looking for a serious relationship. So, do you want this room? I'd be an idiot if I said no. The money I save on rent will allow me to finally go to the doctor. Have you seen the doctor about the baby yet? No money. Things got very stressful for me when Rory left. When do you want to move? Tonight. I want to do this before you come to your senses and change your mind. Do you need help? No, I don't have a lot of stuff. The apartment comes furnished, so all I need to move are clothes and personal items. I think I can fit everything in my car. Anyway, I'll go with you and help. By 8 o'clock, we had finished moving, and I cooked us a light dinner, after which she insisted on doing the dishes. She needed to be at the restaurant by 4:30 to get it ready to open at 6, so she went to bed at 9. I watched TV until it was time to leave for work. This morning, I stopped at a restaurant for breakfast, and when Gwen brought me my biscuits and gravy, I asked what she wanted for dinner that night, and she said she planned to cook herself and asked if there was anything I wanted. I don't eat. I said no, and that since I had several things to do in the morning, I would probably sleep until 6. When I got home, I went into the office, rummaged around the table until I found what I was looking for, and then went to bed. I woke up to the delicious smells wafting from the kitchen, and after getting dressed, I went downstairs to find Gwen busy setting the table. I figured you'd want coffee when you woke up, so I made some. You guessed right, I said, taking the cream out of the refrigerator. Dinner consisted of meatloaf, baked potatoes, glazed carrots, and crusty sourdough bread. I thought I was making a good meatloaf, but Gwen's was much better. This dinner alone is a reward for giving you a room. Wait until you try my lasagna. You'll need to make a list of what you need to make your favorite dishes. Most of the ingredients here are for my dishes. How about I buy what I need and you buy what you need? No. I said I'll buy the groceries and we'll take turns cooking. Changing the subject, I asked if she had a family doctor, someone she usually goes to, and she said no and asked why. You need to start seeing a doctor before you get any further along, and it should be a doctor who doesn't know you. I pulled the card out of my pocket and passed it across the table. It's insurance. I didn't get my ex's name off my health insurance. Choose a doctor, and when you go to your appointment, show this card and use the name Amy. That way, it'll only cost you $25 per appointment. When I get back in the morning, I'll write everything you need to know to be Amy. I don't think that's right. What happens when the insurance company gets bills from two different doctors? One for pregnant Amy, one for non-pregnant now. That's not going to happen. Amy has been dead for almost 5 months. And of course, I had to explain what happened, and Gwen asked, "Do you miss her?" Sometimes, but not often. She hurt me, a lot of pain, and I'm not sure I'll ever fully get over it. I think I understand a little how you feel. I thought Rory and I were doing very well, and it was terribly painful to find out that this was not the case. Enough about the sad stuff. Gotta finish the dishes, she said, getting up to start clearing the table. I washed the dishes, she did the drying, and then we watched TV until she went to bed at 9, and I watched until it was time to leave for work. The next 3 weeks passed, and we got used to our relationship. Instead of cooking every other day, we decided it would be better to divide this responsibility into weeks. And she was right. Her lasagna was great, and she seemed to like my 5-cheese mac and cheese as much as I liked her lasagna. She went to the doctor, and he said that everything was fine and that everything looked good. One night at dinner, at the end of 3 weeks, Gwen said, "You don't go on dates. Why? You're a handsome man and a very good person, so you shouldn't have any problems finding a girl. Working the night shift with Wednesdays and Thursdays off doesn't give me much opportunity to meet or get dates. What about you? You haven't been out since you moved in. Unfortunately, you are the only man who thinks I'm beautiful. Be patient, honey. He is out there somewhere, and you will find each other." Yes, sure. It was Wednesday and one of my days off, so I stayed up and watched TV until 10:30 before going to bed. Gwen went to bed at 9, as usual. I had been lying in bed for about 15 minutes when the bedroom door opened and Gwen walked into the room. In a voice full of desire or need, or perhaps both, she said, "Do you think I'm sexy? I think you have to prove it." We made love. Sorry, I guess I'll have to move out now. Why do you think so? This shouldn't have happened. I should have just been a lodger. Nonsense. I'm glad you did it. I've always wanted it, but I haven't seen any signs that you're interested. The problem is, now that you've started, I'll want to continue. Are you serious? You weren't just trying to please me when you told me you thought I was sexy. Now that you've opened the door, I'm going to prove it to you as many times as you'll allow. This turned out to be once a day for the next 3 weeks, and then dropped to 4 to 5 times a week until her 8th month, and then a couple times a week, very carefully. 2 weeks before the deadline, I raised this topic. How do you feel about marriage? I think we should do it, since we actually already live as husband and wife, except for the last name change. You're kidding, right? Not one bit. We do everything a spouse does. We go shopping together, take care of the house together, share responsibilities, and make love every chance we get. Are you serious? Do you really want to marry me? Yes, and if we hurry, we'll make it before the baby is born, and he we knew it was a boy thanks to the ultrasound won't bear the stigma of being illegitimate. But he's not yours. You don't need to know that. Besides, even if I'm not his biological father, I'll be his daddy if I raise him. Oh God, I don't know what to say. Yes would be the preferred answer. But why? Why do you want to do this? Because I've fallen in love with you, and I'm afraid that if I don't tie you down now, one day you might leave. Do you love me? Do you really love me? Yes. She jumped up from her place on the other side of the table and ran over to me. She hugged me and kissed me. Yes, you are an amazing person. I will marry you. I have been in love with you since the week I moved in, but I didn't show it because I was afraid. Afraid? What were you afraid of? I was afraid that you would say you didn't want this kind of relationship and kick me out. Stupid girl. There is no way in the world I would send away a sexy lady like you. You should call work and say you're sick. I'm going to kill you with sex. You can't. You have to be careful at this time. We worked everything out, and a week before the deadline we got married. The honeymoon had to be postponed until the baby was born. Luckily, Gwen's water broke on my first day off, so there was no panic to contact me at work to rush home. The boy was born weighing 7 pounds, 8 ounces, and Gwen surprised me by naming the boy Robert Marshall Dalton Jr. Why not? Gwen said. You'll be the one to raise him. I sure as hell wasn't going to name him after the bastard who abandoned me. The next year flew by. Junior was a healthy baby, and Gwen and I felt comfortable leaving him with my Uncle Ralph and Aunt Mary and going on our postponed honeymoon. We spent 2 great weeks in Cancun, and when we returned, Gwen said she wanted to go back to work. Why? We don't need money. I know, but I'm thinking about the future. I'll save all my salary, and it will be our emergency fund, and if we don't need it, we can use it for Junior's college education. It won't interfere with our home life. Because while you're working the night shift, you'll be sleeping while I'm at work, and I'll be home when you wake up. Mrs. Davis next door is babysitting and has a place for Junior. She returned to her job at B, and a month later they again assigned her to open the restaurant in the morning. I would go to a restaurant in the morning, and Gwen would have coffee with me while I ate breakfast, and we would use that time to plan the day, and Gwen would ask me what I wanted for dinner. This worked for us. About a year and a half after Gwen returned to work, I walked into a restaurant after my shift just in time to see Gwen walking into the back room followed by a guy. He grabbed it, and I walked straight towards them. The guy had his back to me and didn't see me approach. Get your hands off her, you bastard. He turned to me, and I saw it was Rory. He looked at me angrily and said, Don't interfere, old man. This is between me and my woman. She's not your woman, Rory. You ran away from her. She's my woman now, and you better keep your dirty hands off her. Fuck you, old man. You won't come between me, her, and my baby. Show him Gwen. She raised her left hand and showed him her wedding ring. He sat in my section, and I refused to serve him. I asked Mary to do it. He kept trying to get my attention, and when I didn't respond, he grabbed me. I was about to scream when you came and pulled him away. I'll only say this once. Stay away from my wife. Oh yeah, so what are you going to do, old man? I'm going to kick your ass. I looked at Gwen and said, Open the back door, Gwen. She looked at me with bewilderment. Just do it, Gwen. Open the back door. She looked at me for a long time and went into the back room. I looked at Rory and said, You want to kick my ass? He smiled, and I hit him hard. As soon as we got outside, I let him go, and he tripped and almost fell. He regained his balance and turned to me. I'll kill you, son of a bitch. Of course you will. Come on, bastard. Let's see whose ass to kick. He prepared to attack me, but then he looked at my face and my eyes and decided he didn't want to do that. He stepped back a little and said, It's wrong not to let me see my child. He's not yours. You lost all rights to call him yours when you cowardly abandoned Gwen and left her alone. Do you want to see him? No problem. I'll draw up a bill for all the money I spent on doctors, hospitals, and everything I spent on it from the moment of birth, and I will give it to you. You will pay for it as you should have all this time, and if you don't pay, you won't see it. If this suits you, come here tomorrow at the same time, and I will give you an invoice. But until you pay it in full, stay away from us, understand? He looked at me contemptuously, spat on the ground, and said, I won't forget this, old man. Better keep your eyes open, and left. Are you really going to do this? Gwen asked. Of course. Do you think he'll pay? Not likely, and I don't think he really wants to see Junior. He thought you'd be stupid enough to come back to him. He was surprised to see the rings. In his opinion, whoever was stupid enough to marry you when you were pregnant with his child. Now that the baby was born and he didn't have to pay anything, he decided that he would come back and pick up where he left. But still, I don't want him anywhere near Junior. What do we do if he actually pays the bill? We'll decide as we go. You know how he was. Do you think he'll give up his money on beer and cigarettes just to see a child he didn't want? All Junior means to him is a way to get back to I bet he won't come in the morning, but I'll still send the bill just in case. But what are we going to do if he does something you don't expect and pays the bill? I don't know, honey. I just don't know. It's a bridge we'll have to cross when we get to it. I wasn't at all surprised when Rory didn't come to be this morning, and I wasn't surprised when Gwen came home and said that he came to the restaurant after I left home. He said he needed to talk to me and asked for 15 minutes. I was curious what he would say, so I agreed to meet him at lunchtime. He said he spoke to a lawyer, and the lawyer told him that he could get visitation rights if he sues. Then he said he wouldn't do it if I agreed to meet him twice a week. His exact words were, I won't ruin your income if you're nice to me. It won't be difficult, since your old man works at night. To buy time to talk to you, I said I'd think about it. He said he'd be back tomorrow for an answer, and that it had to be yes, otherwise he'd sue for the rights of your child. Can he really do this? Can the courts give him access to Junior? Will they really allow the creep who abandoned us to come back into our lives? I don't know for sure, but considering how imperfect our legal system is, I think it's possible. But I don't see him spending money on a lawyer to gain access to a child he doesn't want. I think he's just trying to bluff. What do we do? Give him what he wants. What? Are you crazy? Do you really want your wife to sleep with this scumbag? Of course not. You'll tell him that starting tomorrow, I'll be working second shift, and if he comes by 7, Junior will be put to bed, and he'll have 4 hours with you before I come home. You'll let him in. Him into the house, and I'll do the rest. Just make sure that when you tell him that no one is close enough to hear. The next day, when Gwen came home from work, I told her what I wanted her to do. Just open the door and let him in. As soon as he comes in, move away from him and stay 4 or 5 feet away. I went to the door, put a security chain, and went out the back door, walked around the house, opened the door, and pushed it until the chain stopped it. Then I kicked the door hard. The base of the chain broke out of the door frame and hung there, and I went inside and closed the door. Why did you do that? Gwen asked. Just getting ready, honey. Don't forget what I told you. And I went upstairs to wait for Rory's visit. When the doorbell rang, I moved to the top of the stairs and waited for Gwen to open the door and let you in. He entered as if he were at home and said, What the hell, bitch? I told you to be naked and ready. Why would she do that, you bastard? Even if she was naked and ready, it wouldn't help you. You're already dead. He looked up at me and his eyes widened when he saw me with a gun, and I shot him in the head. Gwen didn't know this was going to happen, and she screamed. I ran downstairs and calmed her down, then called 911. While I was waiting for the police, I made it seem like he was attacking me when I shot. I then prepared Gwen to talk to the police. The doorbell rang, and you saw it was Rory, and you put a chain on the door and opened it. You asked what he wanted, and he told you to open the damn door and let him in, and you told him to leave. He kicked the door, you screamed and continued to scream when he came in with a knife in his hand. You heard a shot and fainted. Is that all you know? Can you do it? Gwen said she could, and I told her to stick with it and not change one bit. They'll ask if you have any ideas why he came here, so you will have to tell the truth about your relationship with him, including what happened in the restaurant. My pushing him out of the back exit and his threats and his arrival at the restaurant yesterday and today. All you'll say about yesterday and today is that he threatened you if you didn't let him see Junior, and you came home and told me. This is all. Not embellish. Keep it simple. He threatened you. He said he would mutilate you if you tried to stop him from seeing his child. If the police insist and try to get you to change your story, just tell them you don't like the way things are going, and you won't say anything else until you talk to a lawyer. Understood? I think I understand. But did you have to kill him? Would you like to spend the next 10 to 15 years knowing that he would try again and again to get back to you and use Junior as leverage? And what if he actually hired a lawyer and tried to take Junior away? No, honey, he should have left. I wasn't going to worry every night at work about what this creep might do while you're home alone. I didn't tell her that in the back of my mind, I thought she might give in to his threats to protect Junior. It's not that I didn't trust her, but I knew her well enough to know that she, as a mother, would do anything to protect her child and might even give in to Rory if it meant protecting Junior. The police arrived and everything went as I had hoped. They separated us and interrogated us. Gwen told me later that she didn't need to ask for a lawyer. The main question for me was how I ended up with the gun in time to get there before Rory walked 10 feet into the house. I explained that Rory had threatened me a few days ago. I told them what happened in the restaurant when I caught him grabbing Gwen. I expected him to do something, but I never thought I'd have to shoot. I thought just scaring him with a gun would be enough, but when I saw him coming at Gwen with a knife in his hand, I didn't hesitate. It didn't hurt that I knew half the police and went to the shooting range with them. Everyone knew that I was quite balanced. What can I say? I was even civilized and didn't explode when I caught Amy cheating on me. It also didn't hurt that Rory had been in jail several times for drunken antics, bar fights, and threatening people with a knife. There were also half a dozen people who heard him threaten me the day I kicked him out of the restaurant. The result was that I left without punishment. And then the law of unintended consequences came into play. Gwen started to get nervous when she was around me. She kept to herself, and one morning when I returned from work, I discovered that she had moved her things into one of the spare bedrooms. I tried to talk to her and figure out what was wrong, but she said things like, "Not now, I'm too upset," or "later, when I'm in a better mood." This went on for 2 weeks, and finally I couldn't stand it anymore. I brought it up again, and when she said, "Not now," I replied, "Yes, Gwen, now. I want to know what's going on, and I want to know it now." "You want to know? Okay, then. You killed Rory in cold blood. You forced me to bring him here so you could kill him. You used me to lure him into the house and kill him in cold blood. He was never a threat to us. He wouldn't hurt me. In the 3 years we were together, he never laid a hand on me. He was a creep when I got pregnant, and his leaving killed all the feelings I had for him. But even then, I didn't hate him. Enough to wish him dead. Yes, he threatened to go to court for the rights to the child, but so what? Even if he actually did it, do you think the courts would give him any rights, given what he did and what he was like? And the worst part? You did it right in front of me. I stood there knowing that I was the one who brought him to his death. That's what's wrong with me, Frank. That and the recurring nightmares where I see it over and over again. Every time I look at you, it all comes back to me. Every time I look at you, I remember how you used me to lure Rory here and kill him in cold blood. That's what's wrong with me, Frank. And I don't know if I'll ever get over it. I looked at her for a moment, then nodded that I understood. Then I got up and went to do something in the garage. The next 2 months passed, and we simply coexisted. We shared housework and cooking duties, but nothing else. I stopped going to be in the mornings, except on Gwen's days off. I was waiting for a change in Gwen's attitude, but it never happened. I finally accepted the situation and did what I had to do. It was Gwen's week of cooking, and when dinner was ready, she called me to the table. We ate in silence, and after we finished eating, I handed Gwen the envelope. "What is this?" "Divorce papers. All you have to do is sign where noted, and I'll give them to the lawyer to file. There will be a hearing to set alimony and child support, and in 90 days you'll be free of me. Nothing has to change. We'll just go back to the agreement that was made on the day you moved. The only change will be that after the court establishes alimony and child support, I will keep half as payment for room and board. I don't understand. If everything remains the same, why divorce? Because I am still a young and healthy man, and I have certain wants, needs. I took my vows seriously and have no intention of breaking them. So in order to satisfy those needs and desires, I need to be released from these vows. I am not ready to spend the rest of my life in celibacy because of what I did to protect my marriage. I know you're saying Rory wasn't a threat to us, but in my mind he was. One of the most powerful forces in the universe is a mother's determination to protect her child, and in the back of my mind I had the idea that you could finally give in to Rory to protect Junior. It might never happen, but if for some reason it did, our marriage would be dead. I wasn't willing to take the risk. The irony is that what I did to protect our marriage ended up ruining it. Just sign the papers and be done with it. I got up and went to the garage to work on my truck. About 20 minutes later, Gwen walked out into the garage. She stood there watching me work for a few minutes, then said, "Do you really think so badly of me that you think I'll cheat on you?" On the contrary, I think very highly of you. You read in the papers or see it on the news all the time. Women who leave their children at home while they go out to have fun. Women who let their husbands and boyfriends beat their children and do nothing. Women who give birth and leave their babies on the doorstep of a church, fire station, or police station. This is not about you. We both know you'll do anything to protect Junior. If you had given in to Rory, it wouldn't have been cheating in your mind. It would be something you did to protect your child. You would do that, and it would kill us. We both know that Rory would never leave us alone, and we both know that he would never stop trying to have you again. He didn't care about his son, but to him, you were his, and he couldn't stand the thought of me being with you and him not. He was determined to sleep with you just to prove to me that you were still his. He would use Junior to try and do it. I wouldn't be surprised if he threatened to physically harm Junior to get you to give in. I took steps to ensure that this never happened. I'm sorry that what I did destroyed our marriage, but I don't regret killing Rory, not a bit. In my own way, I did what I knew you would have to do one day. I protected my home and family. I climbed into the truck, pressed the garage door opener, and drove out of the garage. It was still too early to go to work, but I went there anyway. When I got to the hangar, I took the service bus to the terminal and wandered around the bookstores until it was time to head back to the hangar and check in. It was an easy night with a few checks and some component replacements. I stopped at the Village Inn for breakfast and then went home. I was home at 1 o'clock when I went to bed. The divorce papers were on my pillow, and I saw that Gwen hadn't signed them and wondered what that meant. I threw them on the floor and went to bed, falling asleep instantly. Some noise woke me up, and I looked at my watch. It was 7:20. The street light outside the window provided enough light that I could see Gwen standing at the bedroom door. I sat down and looked at her, and then she came towards me. She climbed onto the bed and said, "I hate what you did, and it will take me a while to get over it, but you are too good a person to lose. There will be no divorce. Subscribe to our channel so that your love doesn't cheat on you, and go ahead and listen to the next story, because this story is nothing compared to the next one. If you're under 18, don't even think click to the next one. Click to the next one. Click to the next